how do you see crypto, Bitcoin, stable coins, et cetera, playing out with the presidential election? So it's like, all of these politicians, we've already seen that playing out, but this feels like maybe it's the first presidential election where Bitcoin is a part of the conversation. It's definitely not the thing, but it's a thing. And we've seen multiple presidential candidates come out in support of Bitcoin.
Isn't it great?
Does that become the norm, or what are you thinking there?
I love it. I mean, it is somewhat generational, but the leaders in both political parties polling right now are both of a different generation than the average Bitcoiner, let's put it that way. And they're both anti-crypto, right? Trump himself was very anti-crypto because Steve Mnuchin, his Treasury Secretary, was anti-crypto, although it has just been disclosed that he owns some Ethereum. And then we know what the Biden administration's view is. It's virulently anti-crypto, and especially going after the people who are trying hardest to work with the regulators. It's been designed to sort of shoot the stallion to scatter the herd, so to speak. And I don't think the Biden administration is going to change. Although I will say there are some people in the Biden administration who are very pro crypto. It's a strange bedfellows kind of thing where it doesn't cut across traditional political parties, and it doesn't cut across even within both the Trump administration, where you had Brian Brooks, who was very pro, and Steve Mnuchin, who was very against. There are very pro folks within the Biden White House, but the people in charge of economic policy right now are not among them. So long story short, yes, I think it will become a presidential election issue, but right now it's the secondary candidates who are talking about it. There's pretty much unanimity among those secondary candidates who have spoken about it, that they're pro. I suspect the neocon types are against. We haven't heard Tim Scott yet come out and say what he thinks. He is the ranking member of the Senate Banking Committee. So any legislation, any crypto legislation that goes through before the end of the Biden administration must go through him. So I think it's ultimately going to, he's going to have to take a position at some point. And my gut is that he's going to be positive because of the freedom arguments. But boy, there are a couple of candidates in both political parties who are making beautiful arguments for the freedom to transact financially and for being able to protect financial privacy. I'm spending time with multiple of them, their campaign staffs. I'm not endorsing anybody, but I'm willing on a policy discussion matter to talk to anybody who's interested in learning about Bitcoin and coming out with policies. And I just this morning, someone asked me, how do we maintain financial privacy and balance the policy goal of not allowing the financial system to be used for money laundering? And the answer is you fix the third party doctrine, which is the doctrine that once you give up any data to a third party, you've given up a privacy interest in it, and the government can go to the bank or to your cell phone company and get every financial transaction you've ever done. And get every cell phone location ping that your cell phone has ever pinged, right? That data is commercially available, and especially the banks just have to turn it over when the government comes calling. And so the easiest way to deal with that is to say, all right, for money laundering purposes, the government can use that data, but the government can't use that data for anything else. So just pass a law that says it cannot be used as evidence in criminal cases and civil cases, that it is private for everything except for money laundering. That would solve a lot of problems. That would help keep privacy. So if you see a presidential candidate start espousing that, you might trace it back to me, because they thought it was a pretty good idea. So we'll see if it actually comes out in policy. But that's how you start to restore privacy rights and Fourth Amendment protections that have been completely gutted by the fact that the government doesn't need to go to a court and prove probable cause to get a search warrant. They'll just go buy your data from a third-party data provider and use it as evidence against you. And until we restore the Fourth Amendment protections, unfortunately, the walls are closing in on Americans' privacy, on our rights and freedoms to transact. And I hope that that a politician breaks through, and one specifically that is truly committed to freedom.